OK and the podcast serves as a vessel to bridge the gap between human isolation and connection. We are all going through something. However, what happens when we start sharing our stories? We will be able to connect, heal, and grow. Come with me and my guests on a journey that will uncover their OK and moment. I'm your host, Just Jess. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to OK and the podcast, where we are bridging the gap between human isolation and connection. And this episode, I want to preface it as listen, take note, because you can ultimately get some great information out of this. All right. So we're going to jump into it. No random segment this go around. I think you'll understand the reason why behind it. So I will let our guest introduce herself and we'll take it from there. Hey, Tress.
Hi.
How are you?
A little bit shaky, I guess.
Okay.
Talking about the subject in itself, but I kind of needed to get some stuff off my chest and thought it'd be nice to talk to someone I trust.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you using the platform and entrusting me with your story. So let's get into it. Talk to me before the event. What was going on?
So before the event, pretty much my mom has gone through several issues as far as mental illness. She was diagnosed with bipolar, as far as I know, in my early teens.
Okay.
Her first attempt at suicide, I was 16. She took a bunch of pills, and eventually life goes on. She got on the correct meds. She was okay.
So when she attempted suicide and 16, so you were in high school, how did your family move forward with knowing that had occurred?
It was rough. I had, my aunt who kind of was there to support and say she would take me and my brother if she needed to. Then we had some support from my mom's friends that were near the area that kind of watched us for about a month. And we went to the same school because they lived in the same area, so we wouldn't have to be displaced.
Okay.
And my stepdad just kind of watched over my mom to, keep her safe and things like that. And, it all seems like a blur from back then. And I think that what they say is true, that a lot of times when you go through something that tragic, that you try to blur out a lot of the memory, because I don't have a whole lot of memory of kind of what happened around it. I just remember it happening and then life moving forward.
Yeah. And I think something like that, when it has that much trauma, I don't know what our brains do. For me, I know if something happens, I tend to block it and I will have little to no memory of it. So we have this event that happens when you're 16. We're moving forward, and let's go into last year.
Okay.
Last year, and talk to me. Let's go like August 2019.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to walk us through that time?
Yeah.
Where were you at?
Around August, I was actually planning for my wedding. Around that time, it was all happy times. My mom had actually helped me find the perfect dress for the wedding, and she was more excited about it than I was, because she never really got to have a big wedding. Her and my stepdad got married on the military base, and it was just them and their friends. So she was super excited to see me in a white dress.
And it looked good, girl.
Thank you.
Gorgeous.
My mom was her normal self. She was being a grandma. We talk every day. She was, my best friend. So we would either talk or text every day and just kind of catch up with each other. And it kind of hit out of the blue,
What hit out of the blue?
So, in order to not get into too many details, my mom pretty much went on this extravaganza on her own and couldn't be found. And we went in search of her. By the time we found her, she was dead, which was, tragic because it was right before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
When the officer had called my dad and told him that, they found her, we're like, oh, yay, I'm glad that, she was found. And, and then the officer broke it to my dad that, she had been dead for a long time, at least 2 weeks. That hit hard, and then everything was okay from there because, the coroner had said that it was from natural events. My mom had heart issues. She needed a pacemaker. And so we just thought that her heart just stopped, and so did the coroner.
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, after they were done examining all of the organs, they did a, for drugs and things like, toxic waste, and like to make sure that she didn't take any drugs or overdose or anything like that. They did a chest x-ray on her, and that's when they found a bullet in her chest. They didn't find the gun until about 3 days later after that. It was hidden under a table.
Okay.
Almost as if after she did it, she felt guilty, so she tried to hide the evidence.
Okay.
And then she put herself up under her comforter, and she laid there until she stopped breathing.
So we're here and we're processing the information that not only, we got the coroner involved, we have various, people that handle certain situations like this involved. And so a couple days before Christmas, putting your mom to rest, and given the time that we've had between December and now, where are you at?
Well, seeing as to how we buried her December 23rd, Christmas will always be like a scarring mark on my heart.
Yeah, for sure.
You were there when I found out that she had committed suicide, and you seen the impact.
Yes.
And I appreciate your support and your love.
I love you. You know that.
But throughout that, I had to tell myself that, she made that decision on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of talk my way through certain days. Certain days it's kind of sad in a sense because you forget, you get so caught in your own life and what you're doing in your day to day that it's out of sight and it's out of mind. And then when it hits you, it hits you.
Yeah.
But suicide is one of those things that's it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. All problems are temporary. Nothing lasts forever.
Yeah. And I think that's the most, and I guess the word, like you say, interesting might be a stretch, but I think of my biological dad, and he was in so much pain from drug addiction for so many different, not so many different, but just so many years. And to do an 8-ball, and if you don't know what an 8-ball is, you can Google it. It's been hard for me to determine, did he die of that, or was he trying to just end the pain? And when it comes to why people commit suicide, what are your thoughts, and what information do you have to share?
Um, well, in the process of healing, I've kind of done my own research,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of suicide is tied to mental illness. You
Yeah.
know, um, that and trauma, previous traumas, life circumstances, whether that's money, recent divorce, loss of somebody that may have been close to you. Um, but whatever the case may be, the person isn't thinking clearly in that moment,
Yeah.
you know, and in a sense to them, whatever it is that they are doing, they want to end it right then. Depression can make people feel a great amount of emotional pain. Pain isn't always physical. It
Mm-hmm.
could be a mental thing. It could be nagging on your mental well-being, and it makes you lose hope, and it makes you feel like there's no other way to relieve that pain other than ending their life in that moment.
Yeah. I'm on the World Health Organization, and as of 2019, the key facts when it comes to suicide, there's close to 800,000 people that die due to suicide every year. And for every suicide, there are many more people who attempt suicide each year. A prior suicide attempt is the single most important risk factor for suicide in the general population. Suicide is the third leading cause of death between the ages of 15 and 19. And then 79% of global suicides occur in low and middle income countries. So when we're looking at, these facts that we have here, and we're going into, just the topic and why is it taboo and why people don't discuss it. What would you like to share?
Well, I think that suicide isn't well discussed because it's still seen as a taboo,
Mm-hmm.
even in our culture where we kind of discuss everything.
Yeah.
um, Suicide is still seen as a taboo to us, and I think that a majority of that is because of religion.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things in certain people's religion or beliefs that makes you think that if you commit suicide, then you're going to hell forever, or you're going to this place that's an eternal pain. And it's that fear of going to this place that is not of God, that keeps a lot of people from committing suicide, but at the same time keeps people from talking about it because they don't want others to feel like their loved ones are in eternal pain.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and then a lot of people are embarrassed about mental illness. They kind of tuck them somewhere and hide them, and they it's more of a sarcastic thing, like, oh, that person's crazy, and mental illness still isn't seen as a scientific disorder in a lot of areas, in a lot of realms. It's like it's all in your mind, and you'll see people who are like, oh, you need to pray that away. And yeah, prayer is most definitely something that is necessary, but at the same time, you wouldn't tell someone with diabetes to pray it away, or someone with cancer to pray it away. All things that have some sort of ailment to them, whether it's a nutritional ailment like gout or diabetes, as far as along a mental ailment, like bipolar or schizophrenic, they need to seek professional help. And, praying is great, but that'll only get you part of the way, just like the Bible says. Prayer is nothing without works, or faith is nothing without works. I think that that's how that saying goes.
Yeah. Faith without works is dead. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense of, if you don't take care of it yourself and you just pray on it and have faith, quote unquote, that it's going to go away, nothing will ever really happen. You have to actually work for it. And having a mental illness, you work, I think, practically every day to say that I'm okay. My life is okay. Um, and if you were to look at my mom's life, I mean, she was an accountant. She was educated. She was very well versed. She was very well traveled. Her husband doted on her. She has two successful children, um, who love her to pieces.
Yeah.
And still, even still, there was something nagging at her and tormenting her brain enough to make her feel that even with all that good, there was still something that was so terrible that she didn't want to live anymore.
And with May being Mental Health Awareness Month, I think you hit it on the head when we have to practice our mental health. I've heard the saying mental hygiene. So we have to practice that on a daily basis, especially if you are in a environment where therapy is not something that people go through. It's, or you need to go to the church and pray, and just everything that you said. And we have professionals that are highly educated, highly well versed in various areas, and really just connecting the dots, and not saying not to pray, absolutely not, but having those connections as well. So when we think about what can a person do if they notice a person suffering from depression, or you think they're at risk for suicide?
Well, in order to not put pressure on others, I do want you to feel like if you've had someone who has committed suicide in the past, I want you to know that there is absolutely nothing that you can do to stop this person from making the decision that they're going to make.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can say in particular to make that. So I would definitely not self-blame if you've been there before and someone has committed suicide around you, just to kind of put that disclaimer out there.
Yeah.
But overall, letting that person know that they're loved, might just save their life. Just stopping by their home, checking on them, might just save their life. um, Asking them, are you okay? And I think that a lot of our general society is more worried about me, that they forget that there's others out there with their own mind frame and their own worries and their own cares. And generally calling someone to see how they're doing, not to tell them about something that happened with you that day, or you know express how you feel, but just generally checking on the people you love and just saying, hey, how are you doing? you know you were on my mind today. And if you do see them getting to an area that's not healthy, um making sure, like, checking on them and saying, hey, are you seeking professional help? And there's nothing wrong with asking someone that. And I would hope that someone who was in that realm wouldn't take offense to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because seeking professional help is never a bad idea. And I think that a lot of people don't seek professional help because they feel like if I go there, they're going to tell me that something's wrong with me. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. And I think I've made it a requirement in my dating, um, just to know, you know, what's up with therapy? Have you been? Because there are so many different traumas that people are dealing with, and then try to have that with the spouse. No one has time for that. So really, truly, understanding like how you can work on yourselves, before
right.
that. And when you
Just
think,
not telling people, like, I hate the cliche thing, oh, you just need to pray it away. you
yeah,
know don't do that. Don't tell someone to pray their thoughts and their fears and their worries and their torments away. Don't belittle their worries or thoughts. Don't tell them, oh, that's not a big deal, because in their mind
it's a big deal.
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And to everyone, even something simple like, let's say, I failed the most valuable test in my mind. in my mind, I mean, you've had people at CSUF. We've seen it where
Yeah.
they would jump off the engineering building because they failed.
Yep.
And that is the end of their life. To them, that's a big deal. For me, if I failed a test, I'd be like, okay, let's see what I have to do on my
Mm-hmm.
next test to make sure I can still pass. Or let me talk to the teacher and let them know, like, I studied my butt off. What did I do wrong? And see if I can get some extras in there somewhere. But their minds don't work like that,
Yeah.
and not telling them, oh, come on, that's not that great of a deal. Or, you know, pretty much telling them that whatever's going on in their mind is silly, you know, because I think that that makes people seclude themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It makes people not want to tell you about what's going on in their life because this person might just think that I'm being silly, In their mind, my worries are stupid.
Yeah. And I think that's where people just go back into their shell because maybe they have expressed themselves to somebody and someone, basically kind of like said, you know what, that's not a big deal, fix it, go about your business, instead of really understanding that this person is being vulnerable with you and trying to express themselves. And oftentimes when you're in that situation as a friend, as a colleague, whatever the case may be, as a person who may be listening, and has had thoughts of self-harm, like what do you say to that person during that time?
Um, I would tell them to choose life,
Mm.
um, give things a chance to turn around. Um, you'll never know how things are going to turn out if you end it. And to think about all the loved ones you'll leave behind. When you commit suicide, you don't end your pain. It's a transference process. You transfer all that pain that was in your soul onto everybody who cares about you. And they hold that for their lifetime, you know.
Take your time.
Um, and in a sense, you don't end your pain. You keep it flowing through all the people who care about you. Um, and then they cry
Mm-hmm.
for years to come about your pain, you know. Um, in a sense, when someone dies naturally, you can tell yourself, you can reason with it, and you can tell yourself, this is what happened because of this cancer, this is what happened because of this disease, or so on and so forth. But when someone commits suicide and they die, you can't reason with it. You, your soul forever wonders. I'll always wonder why my mom decided to choose death over life. Decided that um, she was done being a grandma, and she was done being a mom, and she was done being a wife. She was done with everybody who cared about her because of whatever was going on in her mind. I'll never be able to reason with that, and I'll hold on to that pain for my lifetime. I'll always wonder, if she's in a good place,
Mm-hmm.
if whatever she did to herself truly ended her torment, or if she's stuck there forever. You can read different articles about different religions and what different people believe, but you never know what happens to you um, when you die until you die.
Yeah.
And that could be good or bad. And
Yeah, I think about that, and it's crazy. This When I think of someone committing suicide, and this is just my experience, I think that they're having a meeting with themselves, and God's on one side and the devil's on the other, and really having a meeting in regards to what's going on. Um, and that's how I pictured it in my brain with my father, with my biological father. and just understanding that what you said earlier, regardless of what, if you were there in that moment, they've already made up their mind. And so those pain points, those triggers, those memories during that time will always be there. What are some of your, like, give me one great memory that you have of your mom?
Oh my God, she had the goofiest laugh.
Yes.
And I think that I transferred her goofy laugh onto myself, and my daughter has a
Mhm.
goofy laugh as well. It's an infectious laugh. Like when that person laughs, even if whatever happened wasn't funny, you're laughing because their laugh is infectious.
Yeah.
And that's the type of person my mom was. You know, she lit up a room. She had such a bright light, and I hate whatever dimmed that light
Mm-hmm.
in her mind.
What's your outlook on life now?
Um, I mean, as you know, I'm a mom,
Yeah.
so I definitely have to keep it together for my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely try my hardest not to cry in front of her. Um, Sometimes I do without thinking about it, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I stubbed my toe and it really hurt."
Yeah. Play it
You
off.
know,
Yeah.
she's not old enough to understand. Um, and even before I told her that my mom was an angel, I think that she was talking to Olivia. Um, I know it might sound sort of crazy for people who don't believe in things like this, but Olivia was on her little Mickey Mouse phone, and she's just talking. And I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" Normal conversation you have
Yeah.
with kids. And she's like, "I'm talking to grandma." And I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
okay, what is she saying?" And she said she misses me and she won't be able to see me for a really long time. And that's before I even let her know that, her grandma wasn't here anymore.
It's okay.
And that sticks with me. I just feel like she reached out, because she loved her granddaughter.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, whatever was tormenting her didn't kill her love for the things that she loved, you know.
I don't, it's a trip to know what happens between the transitioning period of one's spirit, soul, and the visits that often occur between family members, especially kids. I've seen it with pets as well. Um, there's just so much that goes into it, and there's so much unknown when it comes to this particular topic. Um, at the same time, it's having those moments where at that moment it might seem crazy, creepy, whatever. Um, but knowing that she had that conversation with your daughter, uh, which is, I can only process that in what you experienced during that time. When it comes to advice, what advice would you want to give someone that might be experiencing this, future, past, whatever the case may be?
um, I would definitely tell them, don't self-blame.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's the worst thing that you can do when someone has harmed themselves, is to blame yourself. And I think that I've gotten caught up in that cycle of self-blame myself.
Mm-hmm.
What could I have said? What could I have done? What did I miss? Um, did I miss the signs? How could I miss the signs? Um, you know, what was there? What did she say? that would have led me to think this, what could I have done to change your mind? And you can literally torment your own mind
Yeah.
By doing that. And in a sense, I would say don't self-blame. People make their own choices. Like I said previously, people will make whatever choice that they are going to make despite what you say or do. But, of course, be there for people. But when something happens that tragic, not to self-blame, because there's literally nothing that you could do to change somebody's mind once it's there. Seek professional help. Don't minimize your feelings. Definitely cry and let it out.
Mm-hmm.
Death is inevitable, but when someone takes their own life, it's a shocker, but don't make that their memory.
Yeah.
So to me, my mom is not her suicide. She was a great mom who put me through college and, helped me through 4 degrees and helped me with my first home and was a great grandma and, helped me pay for my wedding. I mean, she was an amazing mom. She's just was self-tormented, and I just have to try to remember the good times. And that's what I would tell others, is try to remember the good times that you shared with that person, and don't dwell on the things that could have changed the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Pray to whoever you pray to, whether that's Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Hindi gods, whoever it is that bow to as your greater God. Pray to that person for peace. Don't seclude yourself. Reach out to other people and get those feelings off your chest, because bundling that all in isn't healthy. And find some people that you really trust to let out those feelings. Of course, you don't want to tell everybody, because then, those people who don't really have the greatest intentions for you will use that against you. Oh, well, that's why you're so-and-so committed suicide, and you don't want that to be a part of your life. But, get some people who you really trust around you and express your feelings.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's yeah, those hit. When it comes to a quote or a word that has helped you along during this time, what comes to mind?
Family. Um, Family is what ties everything together, whether that's blood drawn or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping people who are in your close network close. Never letting yourself be by yourself. I would definitely say um, one of my own personal mottos in life is never live life in regret, meaning never regret anything that has happened to you or that you have done, because it makes you who you are.
Yeah.
We are all a sum of our past mistakes, and we are all a sum of what has happened to us. And I think that in general, things happen to us so we can relate to each other, because without that, we have no relation. you know Without pain, there is no joy. If everything in my life were perfect, I wouldn't be able to reach out to someone in a way that someone could and say, I feel your pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I stand alongside you and I cry alongside you. I feel that because I've been through it, you know? And I think that that in general is why we all feel pain. So definitely live life without regret. Don't make stupid choices, but, try to make smart choices. But along the way, we're all going to make mistakes. Along the way, we're all going to have dips and lows, as well as highs, and try to it's cliche, but they say dance in the rain. In a sense, if you get through that portion, that change is going to come and good is going to come about. But you got to get through that portion and don't quit on life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Tress, I appreciate you coming on. Listeners, if you have any questions, any comments, okay, on the podcast at gmail.com. Please, if you know somebody, if there's somebody that's going through something similar, reach out to them. Go on to World Health Organization. There's various topics and questions. National Health, National Suicide Line, and let me just make sure I put that information in here as well. I know I did it a couple of episodes ago, but I would just want to make sure we have that information here. 1-800-273-8255. So again, 1-800-273-8255. I would like to thank my guest Tress for coming on and sharing her story, being vulnerable, being brave, being honest. I love you. And I think when people hear this, there'll be some reach out. So until next time, we will talk to y'all later and have a great rest of your day. Bye.